Most guys get into recovery from pornography addiction under a dangerous illusion. And this illusion is that the addiction is the problem. That if they just get the addiction out of their life, then everything will kind of magically click into place and all of their problems will be solved. They think that if they can just hit 90 days clean, you're like, wow, 90 days, which I understand is a big achievement. And it's not to downplay that, but the reality is that 90 days free from some kind of addiction, regardless of what it is, like that's just the beginning. But so they come into recovery with this expectation that after 90 days that maybe like a beautiful relationship is just going to fall into my lap, that all their life problems will vanish. Now, improvement in basically every aspect of life definitely does happen. Like stopping drinking poison will make you feel better. It's so crucial to understand that the addiction is not actually the problem. And it never was. You've probably heard me say this before, and you'll hear me say it again. Your addiction is the solution to a deeper set of problems, and that's why it keeps coming back. Does the addiction cause a lot of problems? Yes. Is it the root cause of itself? No. And so getting to 90 days sober is not going to necessarily solve these underlying problems. A number on a streak counter does not entitle you to healthy relationships or a quality of life that you aspire to just because you've stopped touching yourself. If all you do is quit watching pornography, you will become what they call in AA the dry drunk. The person who has managed to stop drinking but never actually did the work of recovery to transform and to become a person who is capable of being the kind of person that they want to be. Now, the primary expectation that guys come into pornography addiction recovery with is definitely around the perfect relationship. If I can just get this out of my life, then I'll get the perfect relationship. But the reality is that if you've been struggling with the pornography addiction for years or decades, you've spent that time living in this kind of self-numbing, disconnected fantasy world instead of actually being out in the world learning how to navigate real intimacy. You have a serious skill and experience deficiency that has to be addressed. Now, staying focused on the topic of relationships, because that's what this video is going to be about, you've missed years of opportunities to develop your actual social and relational and sexual skill set while you were locked away alone with yourself or your computer. There was a real opportunity cost of not learning the intimacy and communication skills that you otherwise would have developed while you were spending your life watching porn. Quitting porn is not going to teach you what healthy boundaries look like or how to assert them. It's not going to teach you how to create win-win situations where both you and the person you're in a relationship with are actually getting value from the relationship, instead of you just taking what you want or think you need from another person in order to finally feel good about yourself and fill what you feel is lacking within you. There's a famous saying that the size of your problems is the size of your life. When you're stuck in pornography addiction, how to stop touching myself often becomes the most important thing in your life and the biggest problem. That's not a very big life to be living. Your life finally gets bigger than overcoming this isolating obsession with sex and self. You can finally devote your attention, and you actually have the attention, the energy, the motivation, the drive to give to things that matter to you and that give your life a deeper sense of meaning. Energy to do something other than watch porn, fight urges, or deal with the consequences like brain fog and low self-esteem. But here's the thing, recovery does not eliminate your problems forever. All that recovery does is allow you to graduate up to a much higher quality, larger set of problems. Instead of focusing all of your energy on just figuring out how to stop self-destructing, you now have to figure out how to make yourself available for intimacy and real relationships. How to learn the skills of dating and attraction and communication to actually create amazing relationships. It's like getting to 90 days might get you in a spot where now you're ready for dating, but now how the hell do you actually do that? The reality is that you are going to have to undergo a process of retraining your brain out of this lustful scarcity mindset that years of pornography addiction has programmed into it. You need to learn, actually practice, and get guidance on how to give value, understanding what value is, and then how to give it, rather than just take things from others. To focus on the life that you want to create together with another person rather than what you can take from a relationship to satisfy this inner sense of lack. But this is actually where things get pretty dangerous during the journey of recovery. And that's why I want to make a video about this and why I'm emphasizing this so strongly. People get free from pornography thinking that everything to follow is problem-free. The reality is that relationships and dating are probably the number one or maybe number two thing that takes out more people in early recovery and triggers pornography to come back than anything else. Relationships are powerful. They are the source of some of the most powerful emotions that we'll feel in our life, and they can be a profound force for healing. But that power also runs in the negative direction, meaning they are also the source of some of the most severe emotional pain that we're capable of experiencing. Rejection, heartbreak, betrayal, inadequacy. These are, without a doubt, some of the most powerful triggers for pornography. If you're recovering from a porn addiction, I pretty much guarantee you that those things have been triggers for you in the past. They're not going to magically stop being triggers for you in as little as 3 months of time. And I've experienced this personally, thinking that I'd recovered until what I experienced as a very deep betrayal and profoundly traumatic breakup in a romantic relationship suddenly brought everything back to life for me. I promise you that there is no trigger for your addiction to come back online, for a relapse to happen, quite like getting broken up with by somebody that you thought you would spend your life with, or by watching a relationship that you did make that kind of commitment to, or intended to make that kind of commitment to, come crashing to pieces, knowing that it might be months or years before you find something that good again. So let me hit you with two back-to-back sayings. First, what is addiction? Addiction is giving up everything for one thing. Recovery is giving up one thing for everything. And the second saying that goes hand in hand with this is, as I mentioned before, the size of your problems is the size of your life. Addiction is a disease characterized by a progressive narrowing of one's life. Another way to put this is that when you're deep in active addiction, your life will progressively narrow until your entire life fits into one problem. The chief problem, the one that dominates all the rest, which is, how do I stop watching porn? Every other problem, whether it's the case now or whether it will turn into that case as the addiction progresses, will appear to stem directly from the issue. And it's so important to know that the nature of addiction is that it is progressive, meaning if it isn't the most important thing, I promise you, it will eventually find a way to become the most important thing in your life, and not in a good way. But in recovery, as you build real sobriety and real recovery under your belt, your confidence returns. You will reconnect with your masculinity. You will feel an overwhelming urge to return to the world of relationships and connection, to dive back into dating, or to radically change your current relationship circumstances, as you should. And this manifests in very predictable patterns that show up during the recovery journey. The first is that as guys get some sobriety and recovery under their belt, they start trying to date everyone, desperate to prove that they're finally fixed and to make up for lost time, seeking the years of missed validation that they never got. Others, like somebody who has been starved of food and water forever, stumbling across the first meal that they find, will latch onto the first interested person, convinced that this relationship will fill the void internally and complete their recovery. Or often those already inside of relationships, inevitably, they must face massive shifts in the dynamic, as the unhealthy patterns that you have brought into the relationship associated with your addiction must change in order for you to continue to recover. Most men during their years of pornography addiction were caught in what I call connection starvation. Again, using that analogy above, like wandering through the desert for years and then finding an oasis and devouring everything, unable to distinguish what is actually healthy and nourishing from what is unhealthy and poisonous, because starvation is all you've ever known. And so the hard truth to hear is that just because you've been 3, 6, or 9, or even 12 months clean, you still might be completely unprepared for real intimacy and completely disconnected from knowledge of and the ability to protect what is actually healthy for you. That gap between porn-free and relationship-ready is where so many men in recovery lose everything. And again, this is a lesson that I'm drilling into you because it is a trap that I fell into as well. And I'm so passionate about this issue because it never gets talked about in this world. Everybody is focused on quitting porn. Nobody prepares you for life after porn. Nobody taught me how to be a healthy man inside of a relationship. Nobody even broached the topic of what that actually means. Nobody showed me how to be a leader. Nobody showed me that my role in a relationship for myself and for whoever I'm with is the ability to create a future where both of us become more of who we want to be and not less. And beyond the esoteric philosophy, what does that actually look like in practice? The brutal reality, as many of you know from firsthand experience, is that your odds of successfully recovering from this addiction alone are already basically zero. But on the off chance you do actually make it to 30, 60, 90 days or 6 months, which, like I mentioned, is honestly really just the beginning, your odds of staying sober once relationship and dating challenges are added into the mix without you ever having addressed the underlying wounds or skill deficiencies, it's as close to zero as you can get. So I want to take a moment here and really encourage you to not fall into the traps that I have fallen into. You need guidance. Healthy masculinity is not learned from a textbook. It is transmitted from one man who has it to the next one in line. You need the support and guidance to overcome and solve the next problems that quitting porn will simply graduate you into. And so before we dive into the next excerpt here, I want to pause for a moment and say, if you know that you've been struggling unsuccessfully on your own for years or possibly even decades, and you're ready to get this problem out of your life for good, it's time for you to get the help that you need. So go down and click on that link in the description and book a call with me. If you've been waiting for a sign that it's time to change, this was it. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So click the link. And now what I want to dive into here next is actually an excerpt on this topic from a coaching call where some of my students have asked me directly about this challenge. How do you build a foundation for healthy dating once you're porn free? Because quitting porn is just the beginning. The real work actually begins once pornography is out of your life. Now, without further ado, let's dive into it.
I think a good place to start with number one in terms of how to integrate casual dating, situationships, friends with benefits, etc., into your recovery. What does healthy dating and recovery actually look like? I don't know if you selected this one, but since you recently went through some of the dating and relationship content in the course, maybe a good
Mm,
place to start would be some of the takeaways that you've gotten from looking at and going through the material on what healthy sexuality
yeah,
entails.
sure. I'll quickly say number two was mine, and Gabriel, I believe, who picked number one, but I'll go ahead and share super quick. Biggest thing that I walked away from TM8 was just clarity. The importance of having clarity about what it is that I want, what it is that I'm looking for, rather than absent-mindedly bumbling around in the dating world and trying to ask myself, oh, is this a good fit or not? I think once I have clarity about what it is that I want, it becomes way, way easier to let go of connections that aren't meant to be and to lean into and try to commit to connections that are.
Yeah, so part of what comes up for me, very related to the topic originally with our Advanced Recovery Skills workshop this morning, is one of the aspects of the king archetype, right, is that he has a vision. Part of what Ibrahim just hit on as well is that part of what that means as well is clarity. Like, would you trust the ruler of a kingdom who had no vision for where the kingdom was supposed to go? Would you want to work for a business where the leader of the business had no clue where the business was headed or like what the business was trying to create? So, like, you're never going to be able to understand what is healthy and what is unhealthy until you have a vision and a purpose for the direction you're heading. So, I think that would be the primary place that I would begin is by saying that with clarity, with vision, and with a purpose, these kinds of questions then become answerable. Excuse me, as well as with a connection with our values. So vision plus values gives us the ability to identify a direction and boundaries. For those of you who did choose that, I mean, I guess part of what I would want to ask you would be like, what motivated you to ask this question? Like, what is it about these different aspects of dating that you're sort of struggling with emotionally, or like how they potentially fit into the overall picture of recovery that made you want to ask this?
My motivation was that I don't want to go ahead into dating without a plan, and I don't want to end up hurting another person because I don't know what I want. So I want to be very clear on what healthy dating means, and I want to know that okay, these are the next steps I take if I encounter a person like this, and this is what constitutes healthy, and this is okay.
Yeah, I guess as I get my mojo back, I feel like I need to make up so much lost ground. I know if I had been dealing with this porn addiction, there'd be so much more experiences and all that. I guess I'm coming out of a place of scarcity, and now there's this kind of abundance that's ahead of me, and I know abundance is a possibility. I guess I'm also scared with what all that comes with and how that's going to affect my recovery, and also I don't want to. I guess you were one of your in training module ones who was saying how it's not really a porn addiction, it's sexual, where we have this addiction to sexual lust, right? So now I'm thinking, well, am I just gonna transfer my porn addiction to just trying to gain women and lusting after women? Is it just a transference? Is any of this stuff gonna come in between me and healing my inner wounds and all that work? But then on the other side too, I just want to date like way more people and just get that confidence up and just get better in that socializing aspect of my life. So I guess I'm just struggling to find like, what's the fine line and where's the balance there. I don't know if that made sense, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it definitely does. I'm curious, does anybody else any other members in the group have any thoughts on what Gabriel said?
Yeah, I kind of relate to what he said, where it comes from he's playing catch up, and it's like, what do I say no to now that this abundance is coming into our lives? It's like, how do we know what to say no to when we're met with that contrast?
So one thing that comes up for me, and we talked about this a little bit earlier when I was giving the intro on the archetypes, and I mentioned that in sort of brief but passing, that a lot of the suffering or that conflict that we experience internally is a symptom of lack of integration of an archetype. And what we're experiencing is the pressure to integrate. I think this sense of we're coming out of addiction and we're coming out of this developmental arrest, and we have this deficiency of development in this particular case, it would be with the lover archetype of who we are. The experiences that we could have had, the man that we could have become, the skill set that we could have developed. And so we feel this very, very strong impulse, like you said, to like catch up. There's this pressure to like integrate that part of who we are into our life. One thing I would say, bringing it back again, is like um, healthy dating can be among the most healing things in your entire recovery journey. The person that you make a decision to commit to, whether it's for a few years or whether it's for the rest of your life, that's the person who's going to have the greatest impact on your success or trajectory through your life ever. And it's also one of the people who will probably be responsible for like the most joy and sense of how much value is added to your life. It's truly one of the pinnacle human experiences, right? Is to get to have a kind of relationship like that. So these relationships are so powerful. They're powerful. They can be powerful in a very positive direction, as some of you in the here know, undoubtedly, probably all of us know. They can also be really powerful in a negative direction. And so realistically approaching dating, it looks like accepting that dating can be the most powerful addition to my recovery. It can also be the most destructive force. And so how I navigate this is going to determine which side of these things that I get. Related to what we talked about earlier, like there's a reason why a period of abstinence before beginning dating is so highly recommended. For that reason you said, of like it is one of the primary tools that stops us from addiction swapping, of going from lusting after porn to just lusting after women, of seeking sex just for, the sake of sexual release or a sense of conquering somebody, or, racking up a body count so we can feel powerful about who we are. Like there's a sense of trying to fill some kind of inner void of deficiency through external achievement and taking from others again. Um, Versus like getting into a period where we're dating and what's happening is like, oh, like I'm so interested in, I love the connection that I have with this girl or with this person. I'm moving forward here, not because I want to get something, but because I'm so enjoying the quality of the connection that I'm having with this person. So I'm following enjoyment rather than the need to fill a void. I'm following appreciation and a sense of respect for a person's character and attraction based on the fact that I'm becoming a better man by virtue of having this person in my life. So that's an orientation. The other orientation is like I don't feel powerful enough and I need to do something that will allow me to tap into a sense of power. That's like I need to make sure every single girl that I come across is attracted to me. I need to get the validation. I'm gonna sleep with this person just so that I can feel like I obtained victory, like I won the game of validation. And now I'm good enough for the next 5 minutes until, right, the craving for validation just returns. And then I have to go run the treadmill of validation seeking, which is exhausting and never satisfying. And so that's like dating out of scarcity, right? And dating as a means to try to fix ourselves and fill a void internally. Alternatively, we also have the possibility to begin to date from a deeper sense of pursuing a deeper sense of emotional satisfaction, of the connection that I have with this person is nourishing. I laugh harder with this person than I laugh with like anybody I've ever met. I have so much fun with this person. They're inspiring me to become a better version of who I am. They're making me feel excited about my future. They call a version out of me that I love being. So there's a focus there, right, on the quality of the emotional experience inside of the relationship versus what we're trying to take from it. Those, I would say, those kind of two orientations are what set us off towards unhealthy or healthy dating and recovery. But regarding the actual relationship style, like casual dating, situationships, friends with benefits type stuff, I think the grounding to place inside of this, again, it does just go back to a vision. Do you have clarity on the kind of relationship that you want? Do you have clarity on what actually helps you to move forward towards your purpose or farther away from it? So, for example, do I know people who have casually dated in recovery and been healthy with that? Of course. Do I know people who've had friends with benefits and it hasn't led to total destruction? For sure. But also, am I rolling the dice and kind of playing with fire? 100%. Would I put myself in that kind of position today? Certainly not. And the reason why I would say the qualifying criteria would be, I mean, for me at this point, I have a vision for the kind of relationship and dating life that I want, and that's not it. And so being in a friends with benefits relationship for me would feel like a placeholder that I'm putting in my life until I get to what I actually want. In which case, I then kind of ask myself the question of all the time and energy that I'm spending investing into that is time and energy that I could be spending investing into something that I actually want. I don't really want placeholders in my life anymore. And that's just a mark of the maturity, I think, in my own journey of recovery. So getting a vision, getting a sense of purpose, what is it that you're trying to create? Where are you aiming for? Is this helping to move me in that direction or farther away? Am I playing with fire here where I'm getting involved with a toxic person who could potentially totally destabilize my recovery? Is this going to be an obstacle or a detriment to me achieving my longer term goal? Maybe the person's not even unhealthy or something like that, but it's again, it's the opportunity cost of what I could be doing. So that's what I would say, that like values driven and vision driven assessment of whether this takes you in the right direction or the wrong direction.
Yeah, my question is from your experience, Nate, of working with a bunch of people, is porn addiction and sex addiction always 100% coupled? I'll give you a little bit of the my thoughts behind it. Is I think that if you ask somebody would be the typical person that would be have a porn addiction, they would think it's somebody that would have no prospects with any women, maybe a dude that wasn't good looking or such and such. But that's not the case at all. There's many in this call, many of us really good looking guys that if we just really have the confidence to talk to anyone, building a connection wouldn't be the problem. And there's tons of verbiage in the course that about like porn addiction isn't like an addiction It's like more of an addiction of self-soothing and self-isolation. So in your experience, are those two always coupled that you could have someone that maybe once they get in a healthier place with their porn addiction that they could, have these relationships with people and it wouldn't be like a spiraling type of event? Or they always have some type of overlap? Or is it just person by person?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, in about 30% of cases that I've seen, people who struggle with pornography addiction, their addiction really strongly tends to leak out into other areas of acting out. So, other people become involved, a history of like, pursuing relationships for the wrong reasons, a lot of superficial, lustful dating type stuff, like it does tend to spill out. Yeah, the coupling of those two things, porn addicts don't tend to be historic. I mean, just historically speaking, based on my experience, they don't tend to naturally default into like the alternative extreme of becoming a player and like having infinite casual sex. Usually, what tends to happen is that porn addiction causes such a disparity, or sorry, a severe damage to that person's self-worth and self-esteem that they genuinely lack the confidence in themselves to be able to go and create relationships. And so the toxic relationship behaviors that they manifest are all behaviors of low self-esteem. Like, I'm too afraid to go speak to a girl. I'm too afraid to advocate for my desires. I can't enforce boundaries. I'm always people pleasing. That tends to be the more like common pattern. I suppose it'd be like the garden variety porn addict. But there's wild varieties as well, who do tend to have, right, like problems with compulsive dating, approaching, sleeping with girls for wrong reasons. That absolutely is another pattern that shows up. So, porn addiction is a subtype of sex addiction. Like I say in the course, it is fundamentally an intimacy disorder, meaning our capacity to connect is what is damaged, and also meaning anywhere that we are trying to connect, that same, damage is likely to cause an impact.
So, as I hammered in during the intro, quitting porn is only the beginning. Most guys think that 90 days clean means you've graduated, like total victory has been achieved, mission accomplished. But in reality, it really is just the invitation out of which you graduate from kindergarten and you start attending the higher levels. It's an invitation to graduate from the small problems of addiction to the larger problems of how to live a fulfilling, meaningful, and connected life. The result of trying to tackle these problems without the guidance and the support that you need, as I experienced, is that you will enter the dating world or you will try to fix your relationships with zero effective skills, zero frameworks, and zero understanding of what healthy actually looks like or how to create it. And so the inevitable result, which I have seen time and time again, is that you will either go out and you will collect rejections until your self-esteem is through the floor, or you will latch on to toxic people in a toxic way, desperately clinging to the newfound validation and attention that you were never able to get before. Or you will go out and you will exhaust yourself as you mount the validation treadmill, trying to prove over and over and over and over and over and over again that you're good enough. And this ultimately is just one area of life. It's just relationships. Like I mentioned before, the odds of recovering from a problem like this alone are basically zero. And that's not just me like pushing an idea on you. Literally investigate your own experience. How successful have you been recovering from this addiction alone? If you're like me for 12 years, it was not successful. And so I want you to realize that trying to go this alone in combination with what's coming after is setting you up for failure. If the emotional wounds and trauma underneath your pornography addiction are not addressed, if you never fill in the skill deficiencies and experience gaps that you missed while you were spending a decade or more in addiction, you are going to repeat the pattern. And if you do get into a relationship, you will start to manifest a series of toxic, self-sabotaging behaviors that will cause that relationship to explode in a painful way. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. I promise you that the life-saving advice that you need to hear, whether it's from me or whether it's from somebody else, is that you need guidance, support, and connection from somebody who has already walked this path. You need men around you, good men who are on the same journey, many of which are farther along than you down this road of recovery, from whom you can receive support, advice, connection, and mentorship. Someone to stop you from falling into the traps and from doing something incredibly stupid and unhealthy that will only perpetuate this cycle once more and ensure that 6 months from now, you are looking at your life and you will realize that you are in the exact same spot as you were today watching this video. Nobody is made to do life alone, not just in recovery from addiction, but in life itself. But I promise you, addiction is a disease of isolation. It is solved through connection. And hopefully this video has now painted a picture for you of how that actually looks. So if this hit home and you're ready to stop tackling this alone, if you want to break free from porn and prepare for life after porn, again, click the link below and book a consultation call with me. I have a mentorship program where I help people to get the connection, the support, and the effective information that they need, combined with the accountability to actually begin to take the transformative action to get this problem solved. And so on this call, we'll discuss where you are, where you're trying to go, and whether my program and me can help you get there. No pressure, no BS, just a real conversation about what it takes to go from where you are to porn damaged to where you want to go, to where you want to be, to becoming a relationship ready man. The link's below. I hope you got value from this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.